Hey everybody, how about we do a video talking about the mindset upon death and also quickly go through all the different security measures for when you create your own worlds, because apparently my sound levels were kind of shitty in the last video, so I'm gonna mute this thing and quickly go through that whole thing. So when you're leaving your body, something important to recognize is that you might be, a bit of a scary cat or something, and that could, sway your intention or whatever. So while you're exiting your body and getting ready to leave this matrix, make sure that you're staying focused. And if for some reason your escape plan is like, I don't know, lagging out or something, then just make sure to not panic or fly around like a chicken. Well, I can't say I expected that to happen. So basically, say for example that when you die, you set up your escape plan. You've activated your stealth shield. And you're like, I'm gonna make my stealth realm. And for some reason, you notice that oh shit, the stealth part is freaking out or something, because the Akashic records makes it so that they can just search you up anyway. It's like, well, obviously then you need to make sure that, the stealth shield works even if it doesn't have the stealth part in it. But like, if something were to happen while you're doing things and for some reason that makes stuff not work, because maybe you set up the criteria wrong or something, or you didn't like focus your mindset correctly, you didn't put your whole intention into something, you just kind of thought about this is what I should do rather than actually setting your intention to doing it, then like just fucking relax, because you don't need to fucking panic or whatever. It's quite important that you stay calm while leaving this place, because if you start panicking and shit, then I can't really help you anymore. You have to make sure that you get out on your own. For example, let's say that you have a bit of an attachment to someone and that makes you not want to leave this place, but mentally you're saying to yourself, I want to leave this place, but really deep down you actually wanted to stick around, to try and help someone or whatever. That I could actually sway your own intention so that you're not actually intending to do something. So you're sitting there in the astral realms or whatever, after you die. And then you're all like, yeah, leave the matrix, trying to focus your powers or whatever, but like nothing happening, because you don't actually have the intention to do that. But then you're thinking to yourself, oh no, I totally intend to do that. So like, it's very important that you're being honest with yourself and that you're actually, deciding on your own what your intention is going to be rather than just lying to yourself. It's okay to like miss people and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time it's very important that you're able to control your own intention rather than letting it control you. And on the note of leaving the matrix and getting ready and everything, if the stuff doesn't work as planned, then make sure you don't panic, and whatever you do not start playing the matrix games. For example, oh, I didn't do my attention right, now I'm panicking, and oh, maybe I should try going through a portal or something, or arguing with the matrix beings or starting my nuke fest, before I even focus my attention correctly. Like the nuking part of my escape guide is not the first step in the journey of leaving the matrix. That's a emergency measure, in case nothing works. Don't start panicking playing their games or whatever, like just stay calm. If you didn't do it right, the first time or second time even, whatever, then just keep at it, and stay calm. After all, the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again, but like not actually focusing your intention correctly and expecting it to work or something. I'm not sure. Whatever definition, I'm the creator here. Fuck you. Obviously, someone might be thinking, well, what the fuck does it mean to focus your intention? And basically, it's the difference between standing in front of a cold lake and actually jumping into the lake. You know, you can stand there and be like, oh, I'm gonna jump in, but then you're pussying out and you're like, oh shit, man, it's so fucking cold, you know, and just stand there shaking because you've been standing there for half an hour, you know, freezing your balls off, you know, without jumping in. Not that I've ever done that, you know, never. Another way to describe it is kind of like, if you've ever seen the original Star Wars movies, you know, in the second movie, there's a scene where Luke is stuck in a cave and his lightsaber is on the ground, and there's this like monster bear or whatever in the cave that wants to eat him. So Luke, you know, he reaches out his arm and, you know, strains his body, you know, being all like, trying to reach for it, you know, to make it come to him. But then, like, the moment he just relaxes his, you know, body and just focuses his mind on actually getting the lightsaber, you know, then the lightsaber moves to him. Because he actually placed his intention on getting the lightsaber rather than just squirming around like a retard. That's basically how putting your attention to things work, you know. Like, it's the combination of will and mind. But if you just panic or whatever, you know, then that can strain your, you know, intention, will, or whatever. And like, the problem with like using fear and panic and stuff like that is that it's basically a consent form for something being able to affect you. Like, if you're afraid of the dark, then that's like saying there's something in the dark that can hurt me. Like, you don't want to allow that kind of thinking to control your, you know, pattern of behavior. So this is why it's very important that you always stay calm when, you know, you're in the process of leaving this matrix, so that you're not accidentally giving away your mental consent for anything. Like, it doesn't even have to be a conscious act. It's kind of like in the near-death experiences when people do stuff, you know, without really realizing, you know, that they're doing it. Like, for example, when people are able to see stuff around them, you know, sometimes they explain how, oh, I have 360 vision, you know, like, I knew everything, you know, stuff like that. It's very common to hear. But, like, obviously when people say they saw everything, you know, whatever, and, you know, since they're out of their body, that means they don't actually have a body, you know. So, like, how are they seeing stuff? Well, like, the way I interpret it is that basically they're putting their intention into trying to look around, and since they're not limited to the body anymore, they're able to look everywhere, you know, because they wanted to see everything around them. So now they have 360 vision, and they didn't even realize that they were putting their intention into doing it. So that's how powerful our intention is. Like, if you don't control it, then you can screw yourself over. So it's very important that you're in a very focused, calm mind when you're leaving this place, you're not screwing yourself over. That makes sense, right? Pretty sure that makes sense. Alright, so now that we've talked about that, let's go through a little quick step-by-step process of the whole don't screw yourself over when you're making a world realm. Because during my last world creation video, I was, you know, playing this game with a lot of noise, and it was kind of hard for some people to hear what I was saying, which is understandable. Alright, so when you create your own worlds, you can, for example, have a safety system that is connected to time-wise. So say that you delete your own memories in a game, but you don't actually put a time frame on when you actually wake up in the game. Then basically that could result in you just being permanently stuck in a memory wiped game. Kind of like this place, you know, but like without a death timer or whatever, where you would actually wake up from the game. And if you also combine that trouble with, for example, the thing that I called limbo in my last video, which is basically when you set up a situation so that you're stuck in a loop or whatever, you know, an unbreakable cycle, something you can't get out of. For example, if you make a cave in a game world or whatever, but you forget to make an exit to the cave, and now you're stuck there, you don't remember anything, and you never wake up because you don't put a time frame on it. So you spend the rest of your eternity just stuck in a cave. Like, that's a pretty terrible fate, right? So we need to put up some defense mechanism, basically, so that we don't screw ourselves over. And one of these very important defense mechanisms is a wake-up timer, which is basically something that is unaffected by anything inside of your game world, which will wake you up and bring back all your memories to you, no matter what. So this should basically be something that is regularly triggered. For example, you could have in your game world that every time you go to sleep or something, then the timer wakes you up. You know, like before you have a dream in the dream world or whatever. That way, every time you go to sleep every day, in the game world, you're able to wake up and then you're like, oh, this game kind of sucks, I want to leave it, instead of being stuck there until you die or whatever other criteria you set up in the game world. And this stuff should be activated no matter what. So, for example, if you make a self-developing magic system that creates, characters that develop magic on their own, and one of those characters makes a time warping power or something that traps you in that bubble of time, then oh shit, now my go to sleep thing or whatever isn't gonna wake me up. So obviously you need something that is outside of the game world that basically triggers automatically, like no matter what happens in the dream, so that way you're still gonna wake up and it's not connected to the time flow of the game world. Now I would set it up so that you have multiple stuff, even like a game world timer and a non-game world timer. Kind of like how maybe a minute passes in the game world and an hour passes in the real world or whatever. Then like you would have a timer in the real world and you would have a timer in the game world. That way you have multiple security setups so that nothing bad happens to you. And it's also very important that these things can't be affected by anything in the world, especially if you have a self-developing magic system, so that some wizard doesn't realize that he's in a dream world for some reason, and then magic's up a way to stop your timer or something. Like that's why you need to separate these things. It's kind of like creating different AI systems in a computer game. And you also want to make sure that these different systems are also segregated from each other so that they don't mess with each other. So for example, you have one system that controls which cars appear on the road, like this car right here, and then you have another one that determines what game challenges you face, and then you have another one that determines what the big bad guy is planning to do, or whatever. Make sure that they're all separated so that you don't give one AI system too much power. Otherwise, you could, accidentally create some kind of demiurge AI system, that gets pissed off because it's, realizing that it's just a pawn in your gameplay or whatever. Kind of similar to the idea that, what the fuck is he called again? I'm so bad at names. Non-Conformist-RADIO 2 talks about, in some of his videos. So that's kind of stuff that you want to think about. And also on the note of wake up timers, something you want to probably add as well is, trauma timers or something like that, whatever you want to call it. Basically, if you play a game that has some horror elements or something, like maybe a war simulator, and your leg gets blown off or something, and you want to play on max pain settings for some reason, and then you're fucking screaming there for 3 hours or something, then maybe you want to have a system set up so that if you experience too much trauma for whatever reason, then it wakes you up, kind of like the alarm clock system does. That way you don't get stuck until the next day or whatever. This is also a reason why just sleeping timers isn't really a good way to do it, since maybe for some reason you're unable to fall asleep. So you need to have multiple setups so that you don't get stuck for whatever reason. I would try out different methods, before I really get going with my gameplays or whatever, just to see what you like, what things you might want to add to it and so on. So on the topic of making AI systems, something very important is that you don't create AI characters that are actually experiencing things. It's okay to simulate an experience, but if your AI characters are actually experiencing something and you hit them with your motorbike or whatever, then you're actually causing harm to another being or whatever, even if that being is simply a simulated free will, like maybe it can't actually make its own choices or whatever, but it still experiences pain or something. Like, make sure that doesn't happen, because it's a really big dick move to do that kind of shit. So just simulate AI characters or whatever, but make sure they're not actually experiencing anything, so that you're not playing a war game, and then after the war game is over, you realize what you did and you were like, oh shit. Like, make sure that doesn't happen. So now you got your wake up alarm clocks or whatever you want to call these security systems, and you also have your, don't hurt innocent beings that you've created by mistake. Next up, you want to make sure that you don't, add shit that you don't actually need to add. For example, if you want to play a, 3D Earth-like game or whatever, because you had a shitty life and you want to, I don't know, make a harem or something, or play a horror game or whatever. Make sure that, you realize that you don't have to add things like, for example, headaches, and you can improve a lot of things like, for example, travel time. If you still want there to be buses and shit like that, maybe you could make it so that when you're sitting on a bus waiting, time passes faster for you. Kind of like those moments where you're on a car ride or something and you're like, oh, I'm already there, Kind of like that, so that you don't have to wait as long. Also, other things you can improve, like for example, I will remove bathroom breaks from my world, because that's kind of dumb to have, so you can just edit things to make them better. And then on the topic of that, you don't also have to make like a world that is similar to this one. Like it doesn't even have to be a 3D space or even have space to it, You just make a world that is simply based on emotional states or something and communication or something. Like it doesn't have to have any physicality to it. Or you could make one that like you don't have emotions, You can play a game like that one movie, where they take pills in order to not feel anything. Like you could do anything really. So don't limit yourself to doing things that you're used to experiencing here, because there's so much more that you could actually do. Alright, and I also want to mention something important about sharing your realities with people, because if you're going to be hanging out in a memory wiped state or whatever with another being, then it is very important that both of you have your own systems to protect yourself. Like, for example, say that the guy is an asshole, and you pretend to be nice or whatever, so you decided to play a memory wipe game with him, but then, he doesn't delete his memories and he starts fucking with you or whatever. Like, if something like that happens, you need to have a system, kind of like an AI protection or whatever, like the stealth shield kind of, that basically, makes you regain your memories, and protects you from the bullshittery. So have different security systems to make sure that you don't get fucked with if you're sharing your reality with someone else. And also remember that even if you're just making a realm of your own and you're memory wiping yourself temporarily to play a game, make sure that if anything like enters your perception range or whatever, your realm or something, or interacts with you in any way, that you immediately regain all of your memories and everything, so that nothing can mess with you. You don't want to memory wipe yourself and then some Matrix agent or whatever enters your realm and is like, haha, I'm gonna trick him into consenting to coming back to the Matrix, or something. Like, you don't want that kind of shit to happen, so it's very important that you make sure that nothing can fuck with you, so that you immediately regain all of your knowledge if anything were to happen. Like, obviously your realms are supposed to be protected from that kind of shit happening to begin with, but it's, a good idea to have multiple sets of defenses, in case something fails for whatever reason, just in case. So yeah, and that's basically the important parts of making your own realms. Make sure that you have multiple security systems. Make sure that you automatically regain all of your memories and everything, in certain intervals or whatever. And make sure that if you're interacting with someone else, that you both have your own protection just in case. Like, even if you trust someone, you should obviously still protect yourself. Like, it's like, letting your friend drive a car, you want to have a seatbelt on, even if he's driving, it doesn't matter if he's a good driver or not, you don't do it because you trust him, or don't trust him. You do it just in case, so you don't, explode or whatever. Lastly, I think it's a good point to mention that you might want to study a bit of writing before you exit this place. Because, the more you know about writing good stories, the better you're going to be at, making your own stories when you're out there. You have literally an eternity to spend, so, you might actually want to get good at creating some fun stories. And for that, I would suggest a good starting point would be Brandon Sanderson, because, he's pretty good at the basics, and he also has free lectures on YouTube, so just write Brandon Sanderson, and like lecture, and you'll see a bunch of lectures from him.